As luckless to many, as sinister to myself. Such was the Elizabethan colonist John White's gloomy assessment of his tenure as the first governor of Britain's fledgling colony on Roanoke Island, Virginia. As White lived out his final days on an Irish plantation in 1593, he struggled to come to terms with his ambivalent legacy in the newfound world. Just 8 years earlier, White had set out for North America as part of an expedition led by a fiery-tempered courtier named Sir Richard Grenville. This voyage was not without its challenges. White recalled laconically that in a battle with Spanish mariners he was wounded twice in the head, once with a sword, and another time with a pike, and hurt also in the side of the buttock with a shot. Yet in this time White also witnessed natural marvels, helped build a new colony, and even celebrated the birth of his now famous granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first child of English/Christian parentage to be born on American soil. Ultimately, however, White's ambitions ended in catastrophe, with the mysterious disappearance of the 90 men, 17 women, and 11 children who comprised the Roanoke colony, a group that included his daughter and granddaughter. In the centuries since White's death, his story has diverged in an interesting way. Generations of schoolchildren raised in the United States can probably recall reading about the lost colony at Roanoke in textbooks. In these simplified accounts, White and his fellow colonists typically figure as doomed but visionary pioneers in a larger narrative of British-American exceptionalism. Among professional historians, White is equally famous, but for rather different reasons. In recent histories of colonial British America, it is John White the artist, rather than John White the colonial governor, who takes center stage. This is because White was a watercolor painter of extraordinary talent whose works number among the most remarkable depictions of early modern indigenous Americans ever created. To be sure, many other European contemporaries of White offered up visual depictions of Native Americans. Readers of André Thevet's early account of Brazil, Les Singularités de la France Antarctique, Paris, 1557, for instance, could expect to be treated to renderings of Tupi Indians harvesting fruit, singing songs, complete with musical notation recorded by Thevet, and even munching casually on barbecued human thighs and buttocks. Yet White's illustrations stood out among those of his peers. Rather than working via woodblock printing or engraving, White produced paintings in vivid watercolors. This allowed him to achieve a level of lifelike detail which printed illustrations couldn't hope to match. One of the most striking examples of White's eye for detail is found in his tender depiction of an Algonquian Indian mother with her daughter. In 1585, one of White's companions in Virginia, a natural philosopher and inventor named Thomas Hariot, remarked that the indigenous children he encountered in America greatly delighted with puppets and babes which are brought out of England. White's painting actually offers a direct visual proof of this observation. In the hands of the woman's child, one can spot a tiny female doll wearing Elizabethan dress. As the historian Joyce Chaplin notes in her book, Harvard University Press, 2003, this image was later recreated by the Dutch printmaker Theodore de Bry, who used White's watercolors to create engravings for Thomas Hariot's 1590. De Bry's depiction shows the Indian girl holding not only an English doll in Elizabethan clothing, but an armillary sphere, which served as an instructional and decorative representation of the globe and heavens. Chaplin 36. White also had a remarkable ability for zooming out from a scene to create an imagined isometric perspective. His painting of an Algonquian village stands out as one of the most detailed depictions of indigenous American village life to survive from the 16th century. As the detail of the dancing circle in the lower right of this image suggests, White seems to have had a particular interest in Algonquian religious ceremonies. Another painting by White along similar lines gives a precious glimpse of pre-contact American Indian religious practice and daily life. What, then, was White's final legacy? In a narrative first printed in Richard Hakluyt's Voyages, White described his return to Virginia in 1590 in search of the colonists he had left at Roanoke. He had returned to England 3 years earlier in efforts to obtain supplies and other necessities. His account evokes the haunted landscape of a ghost story, and its eerie details have made it part of American folklore ever since. On the 17th of August, White recalled, 3 ships under his command reached Roanoke, where they found no man, nor signal of any that had been there lately. The next evening, one of White's sailors spied a fire through the woods, and the men sounded a trumpet, but no answer could we hear. The light of the next daybreak revealed that this was nothing but the grass, and some rotten trees burning. Finally, however, White found evidence of the colonists' whereabouts. In a tree, he discovered 3 fair Roman letters carved C.R.O. This was a prearranged maker which White understood to signify the place where I should find them, Croton. White's suspicion was confirmed with the discovery of a scene that is now almost mythical. We found no signal of distress. Then we went to a place where they were left in sundry houses, but we found them all taken down, and the place strongly enclosed with a high palisado, i.e. a palisade of wooden stakes, very fort-like, and in one of the chief posts carved in fair capital letters CROATAN, without any signal of distress, and many barras of iron. And such like heavy things thrown here and there, overgrown with grass and weeds. Interestingly, White's account here connects his 2 identities as governor and painter. He remarks that his men found diverse chests which had been hidden and digged up again surrounding the palisade. Among these chests, White was surprised to find objects which he knew to be my own, books and pictures he had created in the years before, now scattered up and down. And spoiled. In the end, White was unable to follow up on these strange clues. Storms forced the expedition's ships to turn back before reaching Croton, and he returned to Britain with the mystery unresolved. The ultimate fate of the Roanoke colonists continues to be debated. Some have conjectured that White's fellow colonists may have opted to join a local Algonquian Indian tribe and adapt themselves to the very different, and rather more effective, Amerindian methods of contending with the harsh American landscape. It is unlikely that we'll ever know what happened, but if White's daughter and granddaughter really did become incorporated into an Indian tribe, it would have made a strange sort of sense. Few 16th-century Europeans looked upon indigenous Americans with anything other than a jaundiced and prejudiced eye. Yet White's sensitive and humane portrayals of daily life among the Algonquians tell a different story, and suggest that his own stance toward the native peoples he encountered in the New World was rather more complex. In White's sensitive depiction of the Algonquian woman and her child holding a European doll, perhaps we can discern a foreshadowing of the hybrid Euro-American fate of his own daughter and grandchild. The intertwined tales of the failed colony White governed, the family he raised, and the artworks he created offer one of the earliest examples of the mingling of cultures that would define the history of the Americas in the centuries to come.